Hi guys, welcome to this Photoshop video tutorial. This time I'm just going to look at how we can create the high and low key effects on a simple portrait image like this. So in Photoshop I'm just going to show you how we can use adjustment layers and grouping them together just to create different high key effects. So that's the high key and we've got a low key effect on this as well. All from the same image, and we're working non-destructively. So low key effect, if you're not familiar, just basically flattens and reduces the shadows, darkens the blacks and the shadows in the image, takes out any sort of highlights. So we've reduced the strength of the highlights on this. It's very simple to do. All we're using is a levels adjustment with a blend mode here. So to do this, guys, what we're going to do is just jump onto an image. You can use any image for this, preferably a portrait image. It's what high key and low key effects work quite well with portrait images. We're just going to add in a levels adjustment. I'm just going to jump up to the levels adjustment layer here, and before I start working on this one, I just want to set its blend mode to multiply, and this is going to be my low key adjustment layer here. And the black and white conversion is something we're going to do a bit later on, but the levels adjustment layer, what we're going to do is pretty much move around the mid-tones. This is going to reveal the shadows in the image. You can use the curves adjustment layer as well. I just think the levels is slightly quicker to do. I'm going to lift up the highlights a little bit on this. I just don't want to lose the highlights completely, and then we can crunch down the blacks if we need to as well. So it's really going to be in the mid-tone slider here, and this is going to create our low key effect. So at the moment we've got a very moody, dark image. We've got some nice highlights falling on the side of the model on here with the light coming through. But what I'm going to do is just convert it to black and white. I just think it looks quite nice in a monochrome effect here. And I'm just going to lift up the reds. So what that's going to also help is just to reveal some detail on the skin. It's obviously going to be a preference whether you want to lose a lot of the detail on the portrait, but using the black and white adjustment, we can adapt the channels, so we can lift up the red slider, and that's just going to help reveal some of the details, keeping the rest of the image quite dark and moody, like a low key image should be. And the yellow slider is also very helpful for adapting the detail on things such as skin or any sort of light objects in the image. So as a low key effect, I quite like how that's working. I'm just going to group those together, shift clicking on the layers and hitting the group button at the bottom, and you can rename the group low key. So that's the sort of way I like to convert to low key, using the multiply blend mode on the levels adjustment. For high key, it's pretty much the same, but we're using a different blend mode. Just going to add in the levels adjustment layer again, and I'm going to set this one to screen. This is going to give me my brighter tones. This is going to enhance the brightness of the image as opposed to darken it down. And using the screen adjustment, I'm just going to crunch in my shadows and highlights a little bit just to create a little bit more contrast on this one, and just adapting the sliders. So with the high key effect, we're going to lose a little bit of detail on the highlights, and that's sort of the idea here. And we just want to keep some heavy shadows as well. I want to avoid creating this sort of effect where we've bleached out the skin completely, because I just don't think it looks very appealing. So I'm just going to keep that to just so it's on the edge here, just about there, and I'm just going to crunch down the shadows as well, and we create this high contrast effect in the image. So it's very much like what we did with the low key effect, but we're just changing it to screen and adapting these sliders just to create the brightness there, adapt the brightness. We're also going to convert this to black and white, and I'm going to just adapt the reds as well, just to make the lips stand out a little bit more. So it's going to be a slightly different black and white adjustment layer to the rest, but this is going to help just with our high key look. Reducing the yellows down, it makes the skin tones a little bit darker and just helps with the whole contrast overall. Adapting the greens, generally try and avoid that. They don't do very much in this portrait image. And then we can just add a little bit more contrast. You can even add a brightness contrast adjustment if needed, and just to boost up the contrast a little bit on the skin just here. We can group all of those together, call that our high key, and we've got our both effects on different groups, and that will allow us just to flick between them if we need to. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've picked up a couple of tips there using the adjustment layers and with the blend modes, just creating high key and low key effect on a portrait.